Hi, I'm Alex.
And I'm Megan.
And this is the Earth Inspired Podcast.
Today, we're interviewing Miss Kathy Clowe, who was our freshman biology teacher when we were in the Global Ecology minor program in high school. Can you explain what the Global Ecology program was?
It's a field-based science and social studies program focusing on the environment and issues pertaining to the environment that kids from all over the county test in to become a part of.
What do you think your favorite part of being a part of this program is?
Playing. What we were just talking about that trip, it's so important for kids to play and have unstructured time and to just be kids and to just splash each other and so I like being able to give that to kids because they're so stressed and so anxious and there's so much other garbage and it's no, we're just gonna go roll in the mud right now, and I think that's my favorite part.
I think especially being able to go out in nature and do it and form those relationships with the environment. I feel like it really helps them care a lot more about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when we were in the program, it was just really nice whenever we went on field trips because there wasn't a huge type of structure, you have to do this at this time, this at this time. It was kind of oh, you have all of these choices, you can go do whatever you want, but you just have to be doing something that's kind of productive, kind of.
Yeah, and there's time to just be, to just be outside and just interact with it, I guess.
What are the most important messages that you try to communicate with your students? I know you said there's a lot of the encouraging play.
Well, this is what I meant, because I'm going to say what I think, and you guys are going to be no, that's not the message you gave. So this is all right, so I'm going to be vulnerable. This is what I'm trying to convey to the kid. The important messages is that they matter and that people care about them, and that it's important for them to care about other people and to be kind to themselves and others.
I think you conveyed that pretty well when you were in the program.
Okay, good.
Very well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's what I like. So we have 4 houses in the school, and Global's the best one. I mean, I know I'm a little bit biased, but I could have taught in the other ones, and I chose not to because there's just different focuses, and I love how we turn out these people who are capable, functional people who can go out in the world and interact with other people, and how you were oh, I'm gonna fix this, I'm gonna figure this out, like that problem solving and stuff like that. We teach you guys, we did that hike and it didn't work, so it was we could give up and whine, or we could just go and do something else, and so we teach people how to, because that's what life is, nothing ever works out the way it's supposed to.
I think that Global is the best program too, which I might be biased, but I don't know, coming to the school, everyone came from a different place, so no one really knew each other except for a bunch of Poolsville kids and a bunch of the Clemente kids maybe, but everyone was kind of meeting new people when they came here. I really enjoyed going on those field trips. For example, we kind of got thrown into Harper's Ferry when we first got here, and it was just so cool, just having to do teamwork, making the tents and doing that really steep hike, and it was so hot, but it was just so worth it at the end, seeing the view of Harper's Ferry and stuff like that with people that you kind of just kind of met and maybe just started talking to, but I think that was a really big part of my high school experience that made me think that coming to Poolsville was worth it.
It prepares you really well for the future too. So that's kind of, I mean, like you said, that's how the real world is. You don't always go according to plan. You just kind of have to figure it out.
Well, I wanted to just say too, I think in Global we focus really hard on the fact that we're a family and that we take care of each other and we treat each other well, and I think that's a really important message for people to hear, because humans are a family and people on the earth are, everybody's part of our herd. We say we're the water buffalo, but every person is, and so I think giving that message is really important.
Yeah.
Can you explain the water buffalo thing a little bit more?
So there's this video of, okay, so here, it's not a water buffalo. It's a Cape buffalo. And it started before I was teaching the seniors. And so Mr. Gardner was teaching the 9th graders, and this video came out, and he told everyone it was a water buffalo. And then it went 4 years up until it got to me, and I'm that's not a water buffalo. But it's part of the thing now. It's the culture. We have it on T-shirts, and it's we're water buffalo. And every time I die inside a little bit, I'm we're not. And, I know someone's gonna turn around and be you're the worst bio teacher ever. How could you not catch that?
All on you.
But it's the culture. So okay, so there was a video the real tourist took. It wasn't a professional thing, of a little baby water buffalo that got attacked by a crocodile, and then as it's being attacked by the crocodile, a lion comes and attacks it.
Aww.
And then the mama comes back and like kicks the lion and beats it up. And then the herd comes back and chases off the lion and the crocodile. And then they all surround the baby and then they all go off. Mr. Gardner plays it on the screen and he narrates and he talks about like how like the crocodile is stress and then the tiger is your fears and then the herd is going to take care of you and they always come back and it's like this whole big, I have goosebumps. You know, like I just like, it's so sweet because the herd will always come back and protect you and look out for you. And it's like this big thing, like we really, like that means something. Like we don't, it's not just words. And so we're the herd. And
Yeah. I still have the like We Are Water Buffalo sticker on my like water bottle.
Yeah. It's a, look, like it's a thing. I don't know what year it was. Time has no meaning anymore because of COVID, but like we went on our first trip and we were late. The bus got back late and all the kids missed their bus. And there was one kid and he was like, I have to get home. I have to look at my little baby sister and I missed my bus. What are we going to do? And Mr. Sparrow, Mr. Merrill and I like, we'll drive you home. And he was like, what? And we're like, no, that herd stuff, we meant it. Like your little sister is part of our herd too. Like and so like it was just really cool for him to see that, like just from the get-go, like no, we will look out for you. And that's what the herd is.
Did you start working here because you knew about the program, or like did you find out about the program like after you worked here?
I found out about it after I worked here, and they actually invited me to do it like when I first got here, and I said no because it was a magnet program, and I was a new teacher, and I didn't have confidence that I could handle magnet kids. I was not a great student in high school, and I'm like, these kids are going to come in, and like I'm not going to be good enough for them, and so I fought it for several years, and Mr. Sparrow was like trying to get me in. He talks about it all the time, and then an opening opened up and I was more confident in myself and my ability to do it. And then I came in. And so like Mr. Sparrow gives me a really hard time and he's like, that was a mistake. But I don't think it was because I needed to grow as a teacher to be ready to do it. So, but I didn't know about it before I came here.
Why did you want to become a teacher then? Did you like always want to become a teacher?
I was a forestry major in college. I was a resource management, and in second semester of my senior year, I was like, I don't want to cut down trees. What am I, like, what have I done? And it was like, I needed to, like, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And I had an epiphany, like it was like angels spoke to me or something, like it's never happened before. And it was like, you need to be a science teacher. And it was like, oh, of course, like I had this awesome feeling, like, of course I do. You know, like, so I went to Smith Island when I was in 9th grade. Like that trip that you guys do, I went when,
with CBF?
With CBF.
Oh my
I stayed in the
gosh.
same building on Smith Island.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, it changed my life because it planted those seeds and that connection to the bay. Like, I don't have to tell you guys, you get it.
Yeah.
And like, nobody else gets it unless you've done it. And like, so that had made this huge impression on me that I kind of had carried around with me. And then when it was like moral crisis time and like what is going to happen, it was like that was there. That was like this rock that was like, oh, obviously this is who you are and what. So high school was not great for me. I didn't have a super great life at home and I was kind of a wreck. And I had 2 teachers that like actually cared about me and they made a huge difference in my life. And so when I became a teacher, I was like, I want to be like them. Like I want to be that for a kid who, I don't know if I can say without crying, like, Miss Nagy, she says, be the adult you needed. And so that's what I wanted to do. Because, like, there's so many kids that are just dealing with so much horrible stuff. And, like...
Especially now.
Yeah. Like, the kids they're having such a hard time. And it's like, just have someone be nice to them. And, like, I mean, yes, we have to have deadlines and consequences. But at the same time, like, we also have to be kind.
Yeah.
Like, they're kids and they're hurting. And, like, just be nice once in a while.
Wait, I was gonna mention actually about the Smith Island thing. Like that's actually like really crazy that's kind of like what inspired you to become a teacher, because me and Alex, when we were trying to figure out an idea for this project, we originally weren't gonna work together. Like he was gonna do a separate thing and I was gonna do my own separate thing. And then we kind of came together and he was like, he had an idea that he wanted to do like a podcast about the environment. I like remembered like when we went to Smith Island, like I remembered like I really enjoyed like that one day that we did where we got to like go around and talk to like all the locals in Smith Island and talk to them about like their lifestyles and like the fishing industry and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, like it would be like so cool if like we could also interview people like that, because like I just love talking to people about like their stories and stuff like that. So that's kind of like that was like the whole inspiration for us to do this project in general. So like it's just something about like the Smith Island, like the bay.
There's magic that happens there.
Did you do that like the same thing that Megan was talking about. Did you do that when you did it in high school? Do you remember?
Think so.
Or what was the part that stood out the most to you from that? Is there one like picture or like image in your head?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I felt safe. Like I felt like I belonged there. Like it was like, oh, this makes sense. I'm supposed to be here. And that's the feeling that I had with it. And like it wasn't just though like not just the bay, but like on Earth. Like it was like how do you put that in a podcast like this? Like I belong in the universe. Like I have a place here on Earth and I matter is the feeling that it had. And like I think I got it by connecting with the bay, but like it really was like the big picture. Like the Earth and the environment and just me.
Yeah, I relate to that. There was like a lot of moments like during global trips, like especially like when we went on like night hikes or we're just like stargazing, or like when we went to Shenandoah, we like looked at the moon over the river. That was like so like I still think about that. It was so pretty and it was just incredible.
Megan, I tell that story at least once a year. We went on that night hike and we got lost. We didn't know where we were going. We were just making it up as we went. It was like, I guess we'll go here. And then we looked at the moon on the river and it was gorgeous. And then at the end, I go, okay, guys, say goodnight to the river. And you guys all, goodnight, river. And then it was the sweetest. High school seniors, like teenagers, don't do that. They don't say goodnight, river, like and mean it sincerely. You know, like it wasn't ironic, it wasn't being snarky. Like you were saying goodnight to the river, and it was the sweetest. You know, people don't do that. Like just to stop and look at moon on water. Who does that? And like we did, and we were there, and we were present, and you remember that, and I remember that. Yeah, and I went back to the cabin that night, and I texted Mr. Morrell, and I was like, these kids are so sweet, and I love them so much. I'm crying because it's like. Kids you don't understand how special you are. Like, you're not normal. And, like, other kids are, you know, they're just cynical and jaded, or maybe they don't have those opportunities or whatever. But you guys all were like, good night, river. I love that story. And then the second half of that, do you remember as we were walking back, we looked at the stars?
Yeah. Oh, we, like, laid in the grass?
Yes.
I remember that, too.
Yes. And I was like, okay, guys, lay down. And you guys are all like, okay. And you just lay down in the grass and we looked at the stars. And it wasn't like, ew, and like, you know, it was just like, okay, let's lay here. And then the stars were amazing.
It was so pretty.
It was so beautiful.
I think there's also something about being there with people that you've known for like 4 years at this point, and just like spending time with people that you feel comfortable around, even if, because obviously not everybody is best friends, but just people that you're familiar with and that you feel relatively comfortable with, just like in that environment. Like, I remember when I went to Fox Island, so I was with our friend Anthony, and we had been doing, like, bay trips and, like, student leadership things with each other for, like, basically 4 years at that point. And it was, like, our last day on the island, and we went up to the roof and just, like, sat and watched the sunset. And we were like, wow, like, we have been doing this together for 4 years. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just so sweet and, like, warming to have those experiences with people that, like, you'd grow to care about.
I think, like, especially like during the pandemic, like I think like my time like in Global like definitely helped me like appreciate being in the moment like a lot more than like I was like maybe before coming to high school. Like I feel like I used to always like worry a lot about like the big picture, like what's gonna happen in the future, that kind of stuff. But like especially during the pandemic, like the future was so unpredictable that like I just like couldn't think about it without like stressing myself out. One like really nice thing that I think came out of the pandemic was that like instead of like going out like places with my friends, like we would just meet up for like the sunset like once every week, and like we would go like sit on like a field somewhere and just watch the sunset and just sit there and like enjoy like how pretty it was. And it was like so nice and like grounding. I would never have thought about doing something like that before I like met all these like people and like had these incredible experiences like in the program.
That makes me so happy. That does. It's like that's what we're trying to do. It works.
When you were like a kid, was there like ever like a favorite memory or like a place that you went to a lot that like you really enjoyed?
So I didn't grow up with my birth parents. So the people that raised us, it was my sister and I, they needed a break in the summer. So we went to summer camp every year for the whole summer from when I was 6 until I was so camp. Anything good about me, it either came from Smith Island or it came from camp. Like any good thing about my personality. So, and it was like, this was the 80s, so it was before safety was invented, and then it was like camp like you see in the movies, like just running around being stupid, and like tire swings, and like nobody wore helmets or anything, and it was just like, just running around being a kid, you know, and like being were in these like little tent kind of thing. You know, it was like Parent Trap, the original Parent Trap. Did you see that
yeah,
one?
I have
Like,
seen that one.
I have not. I need to
you got
put it on my
homework.
list.
And it was the same kind of thing like Global, like you were safe there. I try really hard to like, we're not mean to each other. You know, the kids don't make fun of each, like I try really hard for that. And it was the same thing at camp. Like you can just be whoever you want to be and that's okay. And that's a feeling that I don't think many people have. Like, it's okay to actually be, like, my true self. What about you guys?
I also went to summer camp a lot, and that was fun, but it was, like, a day camp type thing. So it was kind of, like, in an elementary school that was, like, near my house.
Oh, okay.
But I think, like, I really liked going to Sugarloaf, like, when I was a kid. I liked Sugarloaf a lot. And it's, like, still really pretty, even though I know people, like, hate on it because it's not, like, a real mountain. But, like, it's very pretty, and I like doing hikes there.
I remember my dad taking me back to like his childhood home a lot, and there's a creek right by his house that apparently he used to also go to a lot when he was younger. He ended up taking me there when I was like little, like 4, 5, 6 type age, and we would like go into the stream and like pick up the rocks and like see crayfish, or like just walk around. We went to Great Falls a lot.
Ooh.
That used to be our spot. I was
Yeah.
like little 6-year-old me, like climbing up the cliff.
When we would skip school in high school, we would go to Great Falls. That's what my friends and I would do. And one time I fell and I scraped my leg all up on the rock, and then I had to come home and my mom was like, what happened? I was like, I fell in the hall. She's like, okay. But like I knew, like having a place that's your place, like that's where we would go whenever we don't skip school. Don't skip school.
Of course. I would never. We would never. No.
I don't think I ever skipped school. Like, I never skipped, like, a class. I, like, skipped, like, coming to school, but I never, like, came to school and then skipped, I don't think.
We're just incriminating ourselves now.
It's okay now. It's fine.
So, is there anyone that, like, inspired your passion for the environment? And, like, if not, like, what inspired you?
I think it's because I like it. Like, it's not so much that I, like, it's not like that I feel strongly about, like, saving the earth itself. Like I care more about, well, our planet is so beautiful and so amazing. And so, like we have rainbows, right? Like, no one needs that. That's not necessary for anything. And it's just gorgeous and beautiful. And, like, birds and, like, the sound. Like, you know those, like, nature videos when it's, like, a drone and it, like, goes over the waterfall and then the canyon? It's just, like, our planet is so beautiful. I don't understand sometimes, like, how we can walk around and not just be, like, oh, like, all the time, you know? Like, rain. we're going to get weird now, all right? So, like, it just falls out of the sky. Like, we need water for life. And nature's like, here you go, the thing you need most in the world. Boom! You know, like, we have everything. It's just, like, so perfect and so provided in this, like, exact balance where it all works like magic. Like, we breathe out carbon dioxide and plants, like, what? Like, it's perfect. And it's magic. Like, I don't understand how we are not, like, all day, every day, just being like, this is the coolest thing ever! Like, kittens? You know, like, right? Like, so that's what I like.
So it wasn't as much like a specific person as just you coming to the realization on your own of just like the world around you.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that happened for you? Was it at like camp, or was it at Chesapeake Bay Foundation trip, or was it some other time?
I don't remember when. It was before, like, I went on the Chesapeake Bay. It was probably like 9th grade. Like, because you figure out a lot about yourself in 9th grade. You know, you kind of decide, like, what path am I going to go on? You know, like, who am I going to be? You kind of, like, figure that out. So I think it was around then. But it was mostly, I mean, it was just camp and just, like, I don't know, just being in pretty things. Like, our planet is so amazing.
What do you do now that, like, helps strengthen your connection with nature? I know we did, like, a lot of, like, forest bathing and stuff when we were in...
Yeah. And I haven't gotten to do it with we tried doing it over Zoom. Not a success over Zoom. Mindfulness did not work. Can we talk about mindfulness?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is why I love it so much, because the first time you guys do it, and I'm like, lay on the mat and try, and you're just so polite. You're like, okay, I'll lay on the mat, you know, because you're just sweet kids. And then you, like, I can see your bodies, and you kind of, like, melt, and it's like, it's working, and I love it. So, like, I don't know, what was your question? What do I do now?
That helps strengthen your connection with nature.
Just be in it and just be outside and see as many things as, like, I'm gonna go to Alaska this summer, and I got to go to the Galapagos 2 years ago, and, like, just seeing all these different things, and like I was in Trinidad and I studied leatherback sea turtles, and, like, you cannot not understand about evolution. So their little back flipper is the exact depth of their nest for their eggs, right? And so if they do it too deep, the babies won't come up, and if you do it too shallow, then a raccoon's gonna come and eat them, and it's like, it's perfect. you know, and there were nubby ones, and then they died and didn't pass on their nubby gene, you know, and like I just like, so seeing like that, it was just like, how can you not like appreciate? So I guess just being it, and I try and see as many. I didn't have kids, so I have freedom in the summer, and I can do other things, and I try and see as much of different things and learn as much as I can that I can.
How do you decide where to go? Are there opportunities that you find that you're like, oh, I want to do this? Or is it more so just like based on the place?
It's both. It's all kinds of. Do you remember I went to Mexico and studied the
Butterflies?
monarchs?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and so it's like if an opportunity comes up and I can put something together, then I'll do that. But if there's not, then it's just like, all right, like I want to do this, and so.
Is there a reason you're going to Alaska? Like compared to
'Cause
like
it's
another
Alaska.
part of the country? Just how cool it is.
Yes,
Are you gonna see the
didn't know.
glaciers?
I'm gonna see the glaciers, and I'm gonna go to the Bears from Fat Bear Week.
Oh my god.
And the bears,
Wait, really?
Yeah,
No.
the bears they get all fat and the
Wait.
balls and they catch them and they and I'm
Oh my
gonna
gosh.
see them.
Wait, that's so
That's
exciting.
better than an actual celebrity.
That's so, yeah. That's,
They are actual celebrities.
they are.
Yes.
The whole world knows about them.
Yes. And so I'm gonna go. Like I go with my friend and we make this list of like what do we want to do. And I was like, I will not compromise. We are going to see the fat bears. So that's why Alaska. Because
What do you think your like favorite trip has been so far? Like I know it's probably really hard to pick.
probably Mexico and the monarchs. Like that. They broke tree branches. So many butterflies. It would like I don't know if you guys were on this bay trip. We went to Karen Noonan and the sunset was really, really beautiful to the point where the CBF workers were like, oh my gosh. And they're taking pictures too. And you know when like someone who lives there and is part of it all the time, when they're impressed. And like we were at these things and people, locals who live there, like who've studied them, like you can't help but be mesmerized by it. And when you see people who've seen a lot of it and they're, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
they're so vulnerable because they're Canada and the US and Mexico and there's all kinds of different things and like habitats along the way and like corridors and stuff like that. So understanding how fragile they are, like it's like, what we have to do everything we can like to protect this because it's yeah.
Oh, what on like in terms of daily activities? What do you do to either help the environment or just like be within the environment?
So I live far from school. I live in West Virginia. And so like that's this like something I have to reconcile, you know, like driving in my carbon footprint every day. And I could not sleep at night. I couldn't teach in an environmental program doing that. So I run my car on vegetable oil, so we get used vegetable oil from a restaurant near us. And then I go to the thrift store and I get blue jeans and you cut off the leg and you sew the bottom of the leg so it's like thing like this, like a sock, and then you pour the oil through it and it seeps out through and that filters like the crumbs, like whatever was fried in it is trapped in there, and then the oil comes out and then you can take that and you put it in your car and you run your car on it.
I was always curious about
Yeah,
that.
I was also very curious about that.
I was picturing in my head like, do you just like dump it straight into the car?
No, you got it because it's got these crumbs, you know, like the
Yeah.
crumbs in it. And so we buy the black acid wash jeans, like the really ugly ones, because my husband's like, we're doing a service by getting them out of the, you know, like out of circulation, so no one will buy them and wear them. So we do that with the jeans, and then they're cotton, so those you can compost, right? And so like, you know, vegetable oil is not coming from a carbon sink, so I'm not contributing to greenhouse gases, so I can sleep at night and I can like, okay, I can drive my car and I don't have to worry about that. And the other thing, it's all about making tiny changes. Like, you guys are pretty wonderful, so you might not have done this, but have you ever been like, this time's gonna be different? And I'm like gonna stay organized, I'm gonna hand everything in on time, and I'm not gonna be rude to anybody, I'm not gonna be snippy to my girl, like, you know, like, and then it lasts for like an hour and then you can't do it. Like, we make these huge changes, and then, so like, evolutionarily, our brains aren't programmed to be like that. Like it's not our fault. It's not like a weakness or anything like that. So what we are good at is small, tiny, incremental change. So that's what I do a lot of. Like I stopped using shampoo, and then you get used to not using shampoo, and then it's not a big deal, and then you add the next thing. And so it's these tiny little things. Like I think if people are like, I'm gonna, you know, save the environment, I'm not gonna use anything plastic, and like a plastic-free life. And it's like you can't go from 0 to 60, you know? So I make these little changes and then they become a habit and you don't think about them anymore. And then you can add another one. And then, so that's kind of what I do. So like the cars was a big thing, but like I do little things, like I said, like the shampoo, we just recently switched our toothpaste. And so we've been focusing on trying to reduce plastic because they don't recycle plastic where I live anymore. And so when you have to put it in the trash, that's like like, it was a very emotional, like, oh, okay. You know, like somehow putting it in the recycling makes it okay, even though I know it's not okay. And I know like all the evils of recycling. And so I've been focusing on like, how can we decrease the plastic that we're generating? And so it's tiny incremental changes that I've been doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with the tiny, like the small changes, because like I'm taking a sustainability class right now because I decided to minor in sustainability.
Oh, nice.
And one of like our discussion post questions was like, what's something that like you think you could like never give up? And someone's answer was like single-use plastics. I replied to it and I was like, I really think it's like kind of impossible to like go from using like all like single-use plastics like every day in life to like completely not using it, which is why like whenever I see that as like a suggestion and like how you can be like live a more sustainable life, like I think that's completely like infeasible, because even if you like don't use a plastic water bottle, you don't use like, there's just like so many things that you're using in your daily life that are like single-use plastic. So like making that one change to like use a reusable water bottle instead of like a single disposable plastic water bottle is already like a huge change in your life.
Yeah, because when you do, like, I'm not going to use any single use, and then you do use it, and you're like, well, I failed, that's the end, and you like give up. It's I'm, you know, like I can't do anything.
I really do feel like it builds up, and I remember that kind of reminded me of something that we did freshman year in your class when we looked at our like carbon footprints, or maybe it wasn't in your class. It was in one of the global classes, but we looked at our carbon footprints, and I'd never really thought much about it, and I was like, oh, I'm a good person, like I help the earth, I recycle sometimes, like and then I did it, and it was something like 6 or 7 Earths would be needed to like sustain my lifestyle. And so ever since then, I'm just making like very subtle changes to like decrease that, like even if it's just a little bit. I forget what I am at now. I think it's something like 2 point something.
Nice.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's that whole, like, I don't like that thing that people say about how, like, individuals can't make a difference. You know, it's like 100 companies are making all the carbon emissions. Or like, you know, and so it's like, well, what do we do? It won't make a difference. Like, I don't buy into that. Because if we all do something tiny, there's 8 billion of us. Like, we can make a difference. So I think that things like that, like Meatless Mondays and stuff like that, like, you know, you can do the math. If everyone did this, and, you know, how can you say that one person doesn't matter?
I'm doing Meatless Mondays and Wednesdays for like another assignment for my like sustainability class. It's like you have to do like a semester long practice type thing. And so like what I'm hoping is like after the semester, like not that I'm not gonna eat meat ever, because I think it's like a super important part of like my culture and like dishes and stuff like that. But like I think it'll help me like sort of like cut down my meat consumption like even past this semester, after like I don't actually like have to keep doing it.
Yeah. And I like what you said earlier about how, like, what's something that you're not willing to give up. Like, I talked to the kids a lot, the 9th graders, about this a lot. We've been doing some different things that I didn't do with you guys. And one of the things is, like, I don't actually care what you decide. I just want you to make a thoughtful choice. Like, if you decide, I want to use, you know, like 100 paper towels every time, like, great. As long as you thought about it and made a decision to do that. Like, there's a reason for it or whatever. Like, so there are things that we're not willing to give up. Like, I'm not vegan because I'm not giving up ice cream. Like, I weighed the pros and cons and the joy that I get and the benefit to the environment, you know, like, and so I think that it's important to make decisions like that and to acknowledge, like, we're never, like, the only way to be perfect is to, like, environmentally, you know, would be, like, to not exist. And that's not... That's not okay, you know, so you have to like pick, like, this is what I'm willing to give up and this is what I'm willing to do and this is what I'm not. And I think too, like, the research shows, like, we don't have to like all like live in a hut and give up everything awesome in our lives. Like, if we just cut down a little bit and just decrease waste, like, that's a huge part of it. And we can still live and have our phones and, like, you know, and have ice cream.
Is there anything else we wanted to talk about?
I have one more question. Are there any favorite memories of your time in Global, or any with us?
Well, that Goodnight River, I tell that story all the time. I love it so much. It just, and I think, so do you remember when we were backpacking?
On the Appalachian Trail.
On the Appalachian Trail. And so you guys were next to me and I was here and it was a bunch of boys and you guys were talking. And I said, you have to be quiet. And you were so sweet. You were like, okay. And you're making a group chat or a something.
To talk instead.
Yeah, and but it's so cute because you're like, okay, my ID is 25, and you're like being so loud, but you were like, of course we'll be polite and we'll be sweet, and so it's just like, it was such classic Global, like, okay, I'm gonna listen to you, I respect your feelings, and I'm gonna problem solve, and like, we're still gonna bond and do awesome stuff, we're just gonna do a workaround, and we're still gonna be friends, and it was just like, it was so wonderful, and like it was people who don't know, you know, because it's a cross grade trip.
Oh yeah. I knew maybe like 2 people on that trip.
And you're like, okay, I'll get your phone number, you know? And it just was so cute because you guys were just like calling across the room. And I just was smiling. I was so happy just imagining like, you know, like you're just making, it's really sweet. And then, so my other memory is not your guys' class. Eamon, he was the class ahead of you, right?
No, he was in our
He was your class?
Yeah.
Oh, then maybe you guys were on this trip. When we went and we were picking up trash on the beach. And he stopped, and there was a piece that was buried. And so he's like kind of like going like this, and it took, and everybody else kind of like moved down the beach. And it was Eamon and Frankie and I. And Eamon goes like this. He's like, come on, they're gonna get all the good trash. And like he meant it. Like he didn't what like because we had been left behind, and he like was running like we gotta get the good trash. Like and it's like that's the kind of people we are. And that trip it was really funny because the lady that was with us, she brought like a certain amount of bags, and when they were full, she was like, okay, we're done. And you guys were all like, but there's still trash. Like we're not done. And she's like, no, the bags are full. And you guys are like, no. And it was really hard like getting you off the beat. Like so that kind like. You know, they're gonna get all the good trash. Who says stuff like that? You know, like that's a pretty remarkable thing. So that's that's one of my favorite global memories. They're gonna get all the good trash. So cute.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clowe.
Thank you. Yay, we did it.